Hey Lauren, thanks for your update email and videos. I got all the videos, or most of them, up here open and hopefully loaded so we can go through them one by one, take a look at it. So we'll start with this one, which is your 235 for 5, fourth set at the beginning of the week. So looks like a good walkout. Let's take a look at the squat. Looks pretty solid in your bottom position. Let me go back a little bit. So in your bottom position here, you got the knees out in line with the toes. That's good. Depth looks good. Elbows are pretty much matching your torso angle and head's neutral, so everything is good here. The only thing you can see is the knees come in a little bit. So right there it comes in a little bit. So you just got to focus on continuing to drive them out so you can use your hips. Even if they do come in a little bit at the bottom, try and get them back out as fast as you can. So by here, you should be trying to push them back out again. So even though if they come in a little bit here, you want to try and push them out. You did better on that rep right there. So you want to keep them out as much as you can. And if they do come in, you want to get them back out as fast as you can. But other than that, everything looked good here. The other thing, if we want to nitpick, is bring your safeties up. Make sure they're in the right spot. There's no reason to have them down here. Your video is not getting blocked by it or anything like that. But just in case, if something happens, you want to have the safeties up so that you can rest up on the safeties and not hurt yourself. Alright, so that set was good. Let's take a look at our next video. We got a 115 for 5 bench press, or 6 reps because you can't count. So this looks like a good setup here. I like the flat shoes. You don't necessarily need the heels for these lower benches. So this looks like a good starting position. Feet are back and flat. Knees are slightly lower than the hips, so that way you can keep the butt down. You got a nice arch here, head's down, bars over the shoulder blades, arms are locked out, so it looks like a good starting position. Let me see if I can get slightly. So that's a good position in the bottom. Can't see the wrist, but it looks like the bars over the wrists, over the elbows. Bars touching lower chest. Elbows are tucked in, so everything is good here. Then you're going to press back over the shoulder, which you do. So everything there was perfect. So good pause on the chest. So all these look good. No issues here with this set, other than he did the extra rep. So let's go to the next video. Let's take a look at this heavy squat, 120 kilos. So you clip the rack a little bit here. So the reason why that happens, which I think we've gone over before, is your feet are too wide. So your feet, you want to start more narrow than where you're going to finish at. So you should be starting with your heels right underneath your hips. So if this is like the center of this right hip, right here, you're going to come straight down. So your foot should be there. And then this one, you come from here, you come straight down, and your foot should be here. So you're going to start with more narrow, and the first step is going to go straight back. That's going to clear you from the rack, and then from there, you'll go set your feet wider to set your stance. So here you actually have to come from the wider stance into in, and so you're shifting to this way to your left or right from this camera angle, which then means the bar goes to this right and then hits the rack. And you can actually see, because of the way you do that setup where you're wider and then you move to our right, is you can see the distance here is smaller than the distance here. So you're not even in the center of the rack, so you've actually shifted off to the rack. So that's why you hit this side, because you're shifted to this side. And if you had safeties here, you might actually hit this bumper into the safety, because again, you're shifted to this side. So you want to start narrow here in the center rack. come straight back, and then sit your left foot here and your right foot there, and be in the center of the rack. Let's take a look at the single. So look pretty solid as far as the speed. Looks like you could have done another rep with that. So again, with these weights, the knees are going to come in, so you just have to really fight it. So you can see their knees came in, and try and get them back out. That motion of trying to push them back out is what's going to keep your glutes in the movement and kind of bring your hips through. If the knees cave in and they just stay caved in, then it's going to be more quads, and if you do happen to tip over, then it'll be more spinal erectors. So you want to kind of drive those legs out as fast as you can. Overall, it was a good single. Like I said, it looked like you had another rep in you. Let's go to our triple. This is the second set. So again, you hit the rack slightly less, but you still hit it. Right there, you kind of tapped it. And then again, here you can see your off center. This is smaller than this. So that looked better as far as keeping the knees out. That one came in a little bit. And that one came in a little bit, but that was good as well. So that third rep kind of looked like what your single with 265 looked. So it looked like you could have probably done another rep with this weight as well. Let's go to bench press. Take a look at the heavy single with 65 kilos. So this is a good setup right here. So pretty good pause. It's a little bit of a bounce on the chest. You can see at the end of the barbell here when it's on the chest. You can see how it's moving a little bit. And if you actually look here, it's a little bit farther away and harder to see, but you can see there's a little bit of movement. So just something we have to continuously work on, which is trying to be as tight as possible in the torso and as tight as possible squeezing the bar and just controlling this bar down and touching, stopping as fast as we can rather than it bouncing up and down on the chest or even sinking into the chest. So just something we have to always work on. But this bottom position is good. You maintain your arch. Elbows are tucked in. Everything is stacked. You're touching the lower chest and then driving it back over your shoulders. It was a little slow off the chest, and then it speeds up at the lockout. So everything was good there for bar speed. It looks like you could have done another rep. It looks like, yeah, you could have done another rep. It would have been hard off the chest, but it looks like you would have gotten up, and then it would have gotten easier at lockout. Let's take a look at this 60 kilos for 3. So looking pretty solid there too. That one looked like a good pause. There was like no bouncing on that one. If you're having trouble taking out a rack, one thing you can do is, I think these are adjustable, is raise the rack height one so you can see the distance between here and here is pretty high. So it's kind of low. So maybe if you raise it up one, it would actually be an easy on rack. But if it feels comfortable, then you can just stick with what you have here. So that pause is good. There was no bouncing on that one. This one had a little bit bouncy because you brought it down a little faster and out of control. And then this third one was good, no bouncing. So first and third rep were the best. The second one, you kind of like rushed it. So you can see right there, you kind of brought it down pretty fast and bounced a little bit. But you're able to adjust again on the third rep and execute it well. So that was good. And then I would say for your third rep here, it looked pretty smooth. It looked maybe a little bit better than the 65 kilo single. So maybe you had, for sure you had one more rep. Maybe you actually had 2 more reps left for that set. Let's take a look at your heavy deadlift. 139 kilos. pretty smooth. We just got to keep working on the starting position and not bending the elbow, so you can kind of see here. You can see like the bicep and the elbow joint and the shadow, and then it kind of changes there as you like bend it a little bit. So here is what it looks like when your arm is straight, and here it's a little bit bent. Maybe if I go full screen you kind of see it better. As here is your arm is straight, you can see elbows locked and everything, and then here it looks like it's a little bit bent. It looks a little bit different. So you want to make sure we're keeping those arms straight. And after Raw Nationals, we'll have to work on it more, is working on the starting position for you, because you're trying to push your knees out too much, and then you have to get your grip out, and then it's hitting your arm, and you're getting your arms bent. What we'd really like to see is legs straight up and down. So you're pushing straight down, you're not pushing these out, and then the arms would be straight up and down. So the arms would be coming right here, right where the sharp part starts, and it'd be coming down right here, right where the sharp part starts. So that way you would actually have your arms being longer. That way you can be more upright. It'll be a shorter distance overall, and then you'd be pushing with your legs straight up and down rather than driving out. And that'd be give you a little bit more leg drive. But overall, this is good. Looks like you could have done another rep with this. Maybe probably even 2 reps. Alright, let's see what else we got. Let's look at the 133 from the side view. Trying to pause it right off the ground. So this is right when the bar is breaking off the ground. So this looks like a pretty good position. Hips are higher than the knees. Shoulders are higher than the hips. Back is pretty straight. Head is pretty neutral. Arms are angled back slightly. And it looks like the shoulder blades are right over the bar. So this is a good position for you right here. Other than you can tell the elbow looks a little bit bent here. So if we can get this arm straight, then we won't injure our bicep, and our arms will actually be a little bit longer. That looked nice and fast because you kept your back straight. The more you round over, the harder your lockout's going to be. That one looked good too. This one you started around a little bit, but nothing too bad. And you're able to power through. The only other thing to make sure with deadlift with hook grip is making sure your shoulders aren't slumping forward too much at lockout. So here, depending on what the ref is, who the ref is, they might interpret the rule different as shoulders forward. So if your shoulders are slumped forward too much in the socket, and it's like if you round it over too much, and they'll say your shoulders are forward. Where someone would just look and see the shoulders behind the bar, and you're good. So the only thing just to make sure when you go to nationals is you're already here done with the lift. So all you have to do from here is just make sure you pull your shoulders back a little bit so they're in a more natural position. Just like if you were standing normally, walking around doing stuff, your shoulder would actually be here. It wouldn't be way back here, and it wouldn't be way forward here. So the last thing once you lock out is just pull your shoulders back a little bit just to make sure you don't get called for that. So same thing here. Alright, but overall it looked good. Let's take a look at this last video. 275 for 3 from the front. So these look good as well. Good. So overall, everything looks solid for this week. And there's only so much stuff that you can work on between now and Raw Nationals. So for your squat, you just have to work on mostly the walkout. And so your feet actually should be narrow like this when you unrack and walk out. And then you'd be going slightly wider to set up your feet. So make sure you're starting with your feet narrow. And then setting up, trying to be center in the rack. Make sure you set up your safeties in your squat. Okay, for bench press, oh sorry, also for squat was just the knees out, just constantly pushing the knees out. Even though if they're going to come in, don't worry about it, just keep pushing these out. For bench press, it's just that tightness on the chest, trying to not get the bar to bounce. We want it to stop as fast as we can so that we can get the press command as fast as we can. Everything else for bench look good as far as your arch, tightness, stacking everything, bar path, all that look good. For deadlift, the only thing we can focus on right now is making sure the back is straight for as many reps as possible, as straight as possible. And then just that little thing with the lockout is just make sure you pull your shoulder blades together, which you bring your shoulders back a little bit once you're locked out, just to make sure you don't get called for the shoulders being forward. So just two things to focus on for squat, one thing for bench, and two things for deadlift. So that was this week here. So now we're going into week 3. I'll take a look at the numbers a little bit and see if we need to adjust anything. But like for the 265 squat, I thought you had another rep in you, so we'll do that extra rep here and see how that goes. For bench, I thought you had a rep or two in you, but I'm not sure you can do 140 for 3. You might be able to do it, but you might also miss it, so we'll probably stick with the 135. And then for deadlift, I thought you had another rep in you, so maybe I'll bump this up 295 up to either 300, 305 to see how hard that is doing an extra rep with that weight. So I'll take a look over this and then I'll send it over to you now. All right, hope that helps.